Okay, so welcome. This is Zeesh, Visionary Life Hacks. Here to connect, here to inspire, here to be the change. If you're watching the live, welcome. If you're watching the replay, welcome. And if you share this, thank you for sharing. This will go up onto YouTube. If you get some value from this, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It kind of helps get this information out into the algorithms. And for what it's worth. Everything and nothing. So today I had a really good conversation with a customer. His machine had landed in Florida and he had some questions. He was like, the machine feels strong. That's often a theme. And the reason the machine often feels strong, and here I have one of my machines, and I'm going to show you why the machine can feel strong. Then we're going to get into a few of his questions that were really interesting. And I always feel that there's no such thing as a bad question. So I'm going to then talk about that question that he shared. And so comparing a 120-year machine to a modern, TZLA, something like that does work, but, might be poorly made, might have modern electronics, but, you look at a 1920s machine, you certainly can't say they're poorly made because they're 120 odd years strong. And I'm going to fire one up for you in a minute and you can really make your own decision. And what's beautiful is and this is answering his questions, what's in the glass is just pure air. There's no funky argon gas like I said in my last live. It's just pure air from a time before geoengineering as we officially know it. So in here is just pure raw ether, raw plasma. So, which is great, and then the wand itself has has a coil inside of it, and there's coils in the machine and rare earth minerals. So there's a lot that's gone into the mechanics of this. And from a time where the uncompromised physician, because there was no conflict of interest, the naturopath and the chiropractor were happily sharing their experiences because they were their A to Z of pathological experiences that they were having. It was coming from a time of based truth with this technology. So the modern technology, because of the state of things Codex Alimentarius and things like that, you can't really make any claims. So they'll just be anecdotal. That's the problem of today. There's so much vested interest in big company pharmaceuticals that, we're living in a totally different time to 1920. I don't want to say too much on that because those of you that are watching this know exactly what I'm saying. And I don't really need to get into too much details on that particular subject because it's a real minefield and you've got to be really careful with what you say. So anyway. So this is so I'm biased towards this technology because it's not broken and I don't have to fix it. I know this is a 120-year technology and I really like where the mindset of people were back in the 1900s. It was a much more familiar way to most of us, and you can certainly say they don't build things like they used to. Will a TZLA or any other machine like that last 120 years? And, for something like that to happen, you've really got to ask, it's really then something, if you're claiming that your machine does something, was back then, like anyone who's making something today is making it for research purposes. See what happens with your plants, see what happens with your germination rate. We do need to be in an age now where this is not new age, not alternative, and it becomes something really important that we start to do the research into the benefits. And so, like they were in the 1900s, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? So so I like to look at it through that lens. And what is it about how they made things back then that made this thing that, it doesn't really look like it's from the 1900s, but it is. It's got the literature that goes with it. So what is it that they did different with this technology that we're not doing today with modern technology. A few people are, but most people, especially when you're paying 11,000, 1,100 for something that, if you have the time and inclination, you might be able to make for 500. But I kind of always think, when I listen to someone like Eric Dollard, I kind of like to listen to what they're saying, because they're way up there with the knowledge and research and truth and understanding of this technology. And they often say that if you can get the parts, they have to reclaim old naval radio equipment to find decent parts today from General Electric and places like that, where he actually had access to back then when he was young. So anyway, I'm going to fire this up. And something else that's important to me is I do think that these are actually time machines, from a few conversations that I've had in the last few days, in the sense of when you start to get into counter space. Now let's do a demonstration. Can someone switch my light out? Can one of you switch my light out? Nuala, can you switch my light, the main light out? That light, this one. Put that one on evening. Nuala, someone come and do my lights. Can one of you do the lights, please? Can you do the lights, please? No, there, that's good. Could you do that one as well? Yeah, that's better. That one. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to explain why I was doing that. So then when you get into the point, now when they do it with the fluorescent tube and they're between a larger field, so if you amplify out the larger machine, you'll end up with this space in the tube. You'll end up with a space in the tube where there's a dark point. And that dark point's the counter space. So when you're seeing this light, you're seeing that. So So when we're seeing that light, when you get into a larger space, there's a point where the correct technology has a dark spot. You can see that on the true unbalanced Lakhovsky, and that is called counter space. Now, the question is why in the 1900s were these healing the pathology of the human being? Like, what was it that was, and so when you understand in the literature, this is not me making claims, this is me talking about what the literature is saying, that they talk about the cellular health as the primary, hi Manda, they talk about the main basis and foundation of this technology is metabolism, or you can talk about cellular health. And there's 3 pathways to that, from my understanding. So you got so when you look at the original literature, the focus was strength, health, and beauty. And so when you know they were used by physicians, when you know they were used by chiropractors and naturopaths, these were used by physicians, think your doctor of 1900s, the naturopath, and the chiropractor. And they gave testimonials about this technology, but they're very clear about specific, they're even talking about acupressure points like acupuncture, because in the West we had very similar systems to the East when we're looking at things like humors and different constitutions. The physician of that time had that knowledge, truth and understanding, and they were based on truth. We weren't living in a post-truth world, were we? We weren't living with 5G and transhuman, well, there probably was transhumanist ideas and eugenics ideas, but there was always open to logical debate, to discuss ideas without being shut down. So it was like this sort of enlightened school of thought where people would come together around ideas. I'm playing with the word idea now. I'm looking for another word beyond the great ideas. And so when you know that, and when you know that the focus was metabolism, and you know the focus was cellular health, and you know that they were giving the testimonies, and they had an A to Z of pathology, and they're working with the pathways, so one that's building, one that's kind of letting go, and one that's, you know, the removal of, is it apoptosis, the dead cells, and then there's the regeneration. So you got this like this building, like letting go, removing. There's like 3 pathways, and you can research what cellular health is, but they focus on those 3 pathways. So when you know that the counter space is a place where something's given to you, so that could be, okay, you're receiving some kind of food, you're receiving some kind of energy, but then you're also taking something away because you're working on those 3 pathways. And you're not judging yourself. You're not going, oh, I'm a diagnosis, I'm a this, I'm a that. You're just thinking, I'm using the machine. And when you know there's something called counter space, and something's taken from that space and given back to us, so there's something given and then there's something removed. You know, you could say that's like going to see a healer, isn't it? Hi, Pierre. I'm going to try and get this out, because when you're talking to another human being, which I was on this conversation, it was just flowing, but I couldn't record it. I'm going to have to start recording, because the conversation was really inspiring, and I want to share what was just flowing in that kind of mastermind of me helping another human being. And they asked me some great questions, and they really wanted to know, like, you know, does this technology really do the same as what a TZLA does? And I'm like, well, yeah, it does. But the TZLA is only got a certain life, and it's not really from a time where they were exploring something being given and something being taken away in a place of truth and understanding. So if anyone claims to you today that my machine is doing X, Y, Z, it's almost like a red flag, because the true investigators into this technology they know that there's a counter space. They know that there's a place where the gases can change and alter in like a plasma tube. They can actually change the form inside that space because of that counter space, and it can change color. And they're like, so, and if there's no such thing as 3D and 5D and all these different silly things that the New Age now talks about, and there's only one dimension, well then if you know that there's a counter space where something's given and then something's given, something's received and something's taken away, if we knew where the coordinates of that space where it was taken away to, then we'd be able to know where it's gone, and then we could see if we could get it back to where it came from. But we don't know. We just know it's gone somewhere else. That's the time machine. And also, because you're a physical being, aren't you? You're a physical being. These machines were used on the physical body. But they also had an awareness back then of the ether. So they were looking at you as a whole being. They were looking at you, I imagine, because I don't think God was missing out of the equation back then. So I imagine they probably had you look at Goethe's work and Steiner's work. You know, these folks were definitely imbuing the idea of something spiritual. You know, they certainly were. So you could say that they were looking at the human being and in its entire field. And this lovely doctor that I sometimes get to talk to is a wonderful breath of fresh air. And he's very clear that it doesn't matter what food you're eating, because if you know that they're focusing on the metabolism, and everything that I've done has been focusing on the metabolism, be it food, nourishing traditions, be it natural medicines, things that my body can recognize, none of this goofy ivermectin or C60 or any of this junk zeolites and diatomaceous earths and silica and all these nano things, nanu, and you're keeping things really, really simple, then the body can recognize it. So that's the food the body can recognize. There's no dodgy things, and obviously there might be some geoengineering, because that's nano, and who wants to be living every time they go to cook a meal and looking at everything through the lens of a nano, like nanometers. You really don't want to be. I always said, like, if I had to see all these little bugs under my eyebrows, I just don't think I want to see it. I'm quite a visual learner, and I'm not really bothered about. I always say, if God wanted you and I to have like nano, like Superman eyes, or Superwoman eyes to see things, then the Creator would have given us that, wouldn't they? Well, you could say, well, they did, didn't they? So they gave us the microscope in the 1800s, and you wouldn't be far wrong. But do I want to see that all the time? No. So, but you get what I'm saying. So the body's eating things that it recognizes. The body's putting in natural medicines that it recognizes. Then the body's putting in technologies that the body recognizes. And that's really important. That's why it's important that it's analog. And that's why the parts that make something, it's like, what makes this better than a TZLA? And I think that's a great question. And then when you own an antique, you can be like, well, and some of them are very, very beautiful, but some of them are very conservative and very quite not the most beautiful machine. When you see them in a beautiful mahogany unit or a marble unit, and the beautiful enamel is very beautiful. And, you do get to see the beauty, but this machine I'm working on right now, it's not the most beautiful machine. And so then I have to ask myself, I have to say, well, this ain't the most beautiful machine. It's got an amazing range, and I can also say then that the TZLA machine's not the most beautiful machine. But why is this, that's made with Bakelite plastic and sometimes wood, what is it that makes this? What is it that makes this like loads better, superior? Because it's 120 years strong. So you can definitely say that it's superior. That's not me. That's the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? The proof is in the pudding. So, have I answered the questions? Have I answered the questions? Yeah, so I think I've answered the question. I hope you got some value from this. Just something that I really wanted to share. I really wanted to share that with you. If anybody wants a machine, if you're on Facebook and you're like, Zish, if you're on Facebook and you're like, Zish, can I get a machine? Just ask me if you want a machine. I've got some machines. If you're on YouTube and you'd like a machine, just hit on one of the links. I've hit on my Facebook link now twice and it comes through to me. Well, I don't want to be on Facebook. Well, you don't have to be on Facebook, but if you want a machine, it's probably worth you coming over to Facebook and then just going, hi Zish, I found you on YouTube. Can we talk about a machine? But you'll see the machines on my Facebook anyway. You'll see them. There's going to be a few coming up in the next week or so. I think they're already spoken for. Now, a lot of the machines go before they're even up on my Facebook. The last machine went. They were like, you got to hold out, Zeesh. Give us an hour. We want them. And before you knew it, they were gone. And then Matey was on YouTube going, is it for sale? And I was like, yeah, it was for sale, but it's now sold. It was now sold. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. How are you? So I was just talking. I'll reiterate what I was talking about. I had someone once ask me, like, why are you smoking a cigar? Why are you smoking a cigar? He was like, what has that got to do with anything? Anyway, this is my Saturday. I can enjoy a cigar. Anyway, so what I was talking about was, what is it, and maybe you can help me answer this question, what is it about, like, I got this Roland Reese here right now. Okay, let me show you. It's not the most beautiful machine. Oh, can you see it? You can't actually see it, can you? You can't see it. One second. One minute, let me just get that head torch. Where's my head torch gone? Oh, here's my head torch. Okay, let's just go, okay. Okay, here we go. There. There's another one. And there's another one. Right. Right. Oops, sorry. Okay. So sorry about that. So they're both for sale as well. But well, one of them's for sale. I'm not sure about my Roland. I'm not sure if now that Roland, it isn't the most beautiful. Like Catherine, your Hollow Electron they're quite beautiful. There's something quite quirky, and the attention to the details, and I love all that. But this one is like something out of Savile Row. It's like something out of Savile Row, and it's a beast. But it's 120 odd years strong. It's 120 years strong. So what is, my question is, what is it that makes this thing that doesn't look that beautiful either, in all fairness, but it's 120 years strong, and it comes from a time of truth where there were doctors' testimonials, chiropractors' testimonials, and naturopath testimonials, and drugless sanitarium testimonials, from a time based on truth, with amazing mechanics. Why is this even more superior than the modern technology today? And I think when we get into the parts and we get into the intention and the people that were building this technology, I think you've then got the clues. Because I don't think they had any different superpowers. Maybe it was the fact that they were a bit more integrated with their food, a bit more. Maybe that's why I feel a connection and an affinity to that time, because I live like I'm in the 1920s. I sometimes miss what it was like in medieval times, because I imagine the food in World War One, before World War One, the food, the medicine, and the technology would have just been awesome. Like put a Tesla Cybertruck, which Charlie Kirk should have been in, Tesla Cybertruck. That's the only good thing I can think about the Tesla Cybertruck. Next to Parker's, Edmondson, Dr. Parkenstein's, NASCAR 1920s motor, or a V8 Land Rover, ex-Army V8 Land Rover. They're just worlds apart. They're worlds apart. There's something about, my mate had a 1950s bus. It was beautiful. And that 1950s bus, every single part on that bus was a thing of beauty because everything was handmade. Everything was made like manufacturing in Britain. So every individual piece had a sense of identity from the individual human being that was working on that. They would have been eating a real Cornish pasty. They would have been eating bone broth. They would have been drinking real botanical brews. They would have been singing songs to the apple trees every year. They would have been drinking fine beverages. Medicine was medicine. Food was food. Technology was great, beyond great, because everything was made in a state of the all of creation, and everything deserved the attention to the details. As they say, God is in the details. And that's what you receive in this. And there are only a few devices I know today. There are only a few devices I know today that are modern that have that same attention to the details. Hi Heidi. They have the same attention to the details because they understand the problem today with parts. They understand the problem today with digital. And they know that there's a dispensation, I don't know if that's the right word, but it came between the true knowledge, wisdom and understanding. And you look at those human beings and you listen to those human beings, you're like, wow. In fact, that's why I'm on this journey, because I'm like, wow. And by owning the antique, it then opens up those ideas for you and you can go, wow. Because that's what I'm doing now, aren't I? I'm like, well, this machine doesn't look too beautiful. That's one argument I hear. But also, like, why would they put like blue light with funky gases in a tube, whereas in these tubes it's just pure raw ether before the geoengineering. Just so why does this become violet? Why? What is it? That mystery. And it invokes the imagination to then think. You're like, wow. And then so if you then see someone and they're going, well, I've got these and they were using different colours. And they go, well, I've got argon ones. I'm like, well, like, that's a red flag. Like, why is there argon in your tubes? There's no argon in these tubes. You might have had radium. You might have had specific mercury electrode sets. You might have had radium, like I just said, and neon. And they did work with specific colours. But there was no argon. So that's something modern, that someone's decided they're going to try and reinvent the wheel, reinvent something that doesn't need reinventing because it's good. It's awesome. It's like, wow, this is 120 years strong. And it still works great, but it's not the most beautiful. Now, like I said at the beginning, we do have beautiful. And if you want a beautiful set, I have beautiful sets. But some of the sets are not that beautiful. I don't mind having an ugly set. This set is quite ugly. But then I try and look at it like a Rolls-Royce Phantom. I'm like, well, maybe this is like my Rolls-Royce Phantom. Well, it kind of goes back then to Tolkien, doesn't it? What did Tolkien say? Tolkien said, not all that glitters is gold, and not all who wander are lost. We are perfect, pretending we are not. Antique is analog, is natural. Like looking at a slug and seeing beauty. Yes, slugs are quite interesting actually. Slugs are definitely interesting for sure. And then you got the snail, which is like, was the slug the snail that just thought, I'm gonna manifest. Now, and then you could ask yourself then, if these machines have the ability to give something and take something away, could that be used in the forms of manifestation? Now, I'm not talking about this woo-woo manifestation, but I'm talking about when you get into focus with the good mind on what you want to see in this world and you're discarding that, you're getting into the Louise L. Hay, you're focusing on God's wealth is circulating in your life, all your needs and wants, and you're focusing on self-love, like, I love you. And if someone says something negative to you, you just go straight to the mirror straight away and say, I love you. Or, just things like, oh, thank you. When someone says something positive to you, which is, that it's not often the most common in mainstream society. And when someone compliments you, you go straight to the mirror and say, thank you, and if someone says something negative to you, just go straight to the mirror and say, I love you. Not in a narcissistic way, but in a Louise L. Hay loving grandmother way. And so when it's focusing on strength, it's focusing on beauty, and that when you're in the zone, be it your golf, be it your sewing, be it your knitting, be it your making a cake, be it making your favorite beverage that you love, making a birthday cake for somebody that you love, just being in that zone, that creative zone. Maybe you're painting, maybe you're just doing something that, maybe just out in nature, walking in the thunderstorm. And they do give off a thunderstorm kind of vibe. And you would never do something in your worst possible mindset where you're at effect emotionally from, the disgraceful genocides that's going on in Gaza. You certainly wouldn't, it probably wouldn't be in your favour to be making decisions after you've seen children being blown up and droned and maimed by evil people. It's, you certainly want to be in the zone when you feel good and you feel strong and, you're dialing it. And so in that moment where it's important to preserve the good mind, because I want to know what's going on in the world, but I do believe that ignorance is not bliss. So I want to know, like, the evil that's being done. And I forgive those people because they've obviously had a lot of evil done to them. And I think forgiveness is an important thing, but I don't accept what they're doing. That's Louise L. Hay again. I forgive you because you did harm to me and these children and me as a child, but I don't accept what you did. It was wrong. It was evil. And atonement needs to happen for that. So when you're in that good mind zone and you're focused, and if something's given and something's received and something's let go of, that could be quite interesting as well, couldn't it? It could be quite interesting as well for the focusing on being the better, stronger version of yourself, for the betterment and the betterment of the whole of humanity. Because if everything's a butterfly effect and your actions affect the whole world, then I think it's really important that we show up as the greatest version of ourselves and beyond that. Like, I'm kind of done with the word great now. I'm looking for a new word. I think I found it, but I've just got to burn it in. Okay, let's see what Catherine said. I think she's going to talk about transformation. We was just seeing we are already the butterfly. Well, now I'm the hungry caterpillar. Give me some ice. Oh, okay, we're going to talk about ice cream in a second. We're going to talk about ice cream as well in a minute. We're already the butterfly. We just pretend we are caterpillar, the chrysalis, while all the time we were always the butterfly. Yeah, or we were the bombling bee that was like, how does that bombling bee do what that bombling bee does? It's just like, wow, that is so amazing. When you slow it down, you're like, look at that bee. It's like such a calamity, but it's all ordained in such beauty. And everything in the world is like look at the swallows and the starlings and the little mole that's digging, and everything's just engineered with the great of whatever your God's work is at hand. It's phenomenal. It's inspiring. So then when I look at a lot of the modern stuff, it's just because it's so factory automated. I think you really need to factor that in. Something that's factory automated in the digital, and like the only focus is money. Whereas when the focus was much more than that, That's worth dying for, isn't it? To build something that is just exuding. Now, this is the thing. This might be a little bit ugly on the surface, but when you get into the nuts and the bolts of this thing, then it is a thing of engineering beauty. It's a thing of engineering beauty. And that's why often when we're discerning the truth, it's important to look at these things through the engineering lens, because they can often debunk things like masks and chambers and things like that. And it's really important to know why we have fallen off the throne where we should be right now, so much more advanced. There shouldn't really be anyone dealing with like health challenges that we see today, should there? So for me, dialing into the authentic, original, antique technology, high frequency, is something certainly worth investigating, in my opinion. And then it gives you a new lens to look at things when you're buying something modern. Like if I'm going to go and buy a keyboard today or a drum sequencer today, I'm certainly going to be looking at something that's analog over something that's digital. And I like to put that now into all the little things that I'm thinking about. How important is the analog over the digital? How important is it to be in a car that you have control over rather than this so-called stupid... Like, isn't it annoying when you get in someone's car and they don't even want to wear the seatbelt and they do that job in and out 7 days a week, and they just have to drive along with this thing going beep, 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 beep. It's like, you know, eventually is it going to go, you're not wearing your seatbelt when you go and buy your steak tomorrow? You'll go, Zish, what were you going to say about ice cream? I was having a conversation the other day, and I really think that ice cream, we can learn a lot from ice cream. Ice cream. We can learn a lot from ice cream. Ice cream is one of the most amazing, fun foods on planet Earth. It's an amazing food. And for me, ice cream and this technology go hand in hand together. You're kind of looking for that perfect food. And ice cream, we all scream for ice cream. And I love ice cream. Like, you might even go to Switzerland and see these amazing athletes thriving on chili ice cream, because it's cold out there right now, but they need to thrive, and they thrive on cream. So the whole basis of an ice cream and a Tesla machine, an antique one, they go hand in hand together with the things that you are seeking in life. But with that ice cream, not all ice cream is created equal. You want to make sure the cream is from a loving cow, where the milkmaid has been milking that cow, but she knows the name of that cow. The cow's hanging out with her babies. Maybe it's on a beautiful Sierra, maybe it's on a beautiful mountain pasture, and it's there with the family, and you get to have some of this cream, this ice cream. And then you get the eggs from your happy ducks, and the ducks have whack, 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 and you get these amazing duck eggs, and the ducks were not from incubator, and they were never fed GMO food, and they were eating the slugs because they thought the slugs was a premium food, like eating an oyster. So you are what you eat, you are what they eat. And so then you're eating of this delicious, delectable cream with these wonderful homemade happy duck eggs, with this wonderful honey that's come from these happy bees. The bees were never fed sugar. The bees chose to move into their Japanese home. The bees, the owner of the beehive, just so happened to be an owner on that land. And he knew that the bees were the best beekeepers. And he let the bees do their thing. He was a bit of a bee whisperer. And then, you know, there's actually beeswax in some of these machines. If you ever want a machine and you're like, Zish, what do you use? Talk to me about the beeswax. I want one of those ones. Talk to me about that. The ones that you were like captivated with by your nose before anything. And then you bought that, and then you got into it. And then you were addicted like you are to ice cream. And then, so what else is there? And then you got some vanilla from Madagascar, these amazing vanilla pods. And you know what Madagascar stood for when we had that boogeyman. And you know what the president of Tanzania stood for when there was the boogeyman. And, you know that that prime minister of Madagascar during the boogeyman was like, well, this thing's worked for thousands of years. We're going to keep drinking this tonic, like the equivalent of a true Coca-Cola. And they're there just like guzzling this like great fortified nutrient. So they never had to get spooked by no boogeyman. So then you're getting the vanilla bean and there's that little essence of the lemurs and you're just getting this. So then you just got this amazing, and then you maybe have a bit of cacao in it from Ecuador, fresh cacao beans. And you're just like, wow, look at this ice cream. Look at this Tesla machine. Do you get it? I know you get it anyway, but you're like, and it all satiates and it all saturates the cells. And the body takes from it what it needs. Now, obviously, the cow might be breathing in it because they're attacking the ruminants. So it might be taking in a little bit of the nano. And there might be a bit of nano in your eggs. And there might be a bit of nano here and there in the bees. And you might listen to Tony Pantalleresco and think the whole world's a shithole. But then you remember that everything is, like, beautiful. And everything, you take out all the noise. You take out all these evildoers. And, and all these people that do wrong, and you just leave it to the little dog laugh to see such fun as the dish ran away with the spoon, and you leave it to the people that really care about humanity and the children and the beauty of this world. And you're just like, wow, this is beautiful. It's amazing. It can all be really amazing. And so anyway, that's we didn't talk about ice cream earlier. We were talking about things like, so if you want to work on your eyes, you don't necessarily have to use the eye electrode on your eye. Because the literature in my group, there are actually diagrams that you can tune into. And so you can actually, you can choose a one that's a little bit more gentler. So I could plug in this one. I'll show you. And you can use an eye electrode. But if you don't want to use it on your eye, that's fine. You can just go straight to the organs. So you could use rosemary around the kidney meridian point. So you could use it on your feet. So now, always when you're using on a sensitive skin or an internal, it's always good to make contact with the skin. It's always good to make contact with the skin. So for example, with the eyes, if I'm going to go on the eyes, I'm going to get my machine, touch the machine. I'm on my dial. Am I on the dial? Where's the dial? Oh, there I am. There you go. There we go, and that's how you do the eyes. You kind of like make contact and then turn it on. Now we didn't get into this. So what the gentleman was saying, so thank you, Catherine and Heidi for showing up, because this was an important part. So he was going, the machine hurts though, Zish, the machine hurts. So I said to him, well, yeah, the machine could definitely, hurt being the wrong word. It's more like you could certainly have a prickling sensation. So if I switch this on and I go like this, that is prickly. That's prickly. But if I go like this, or I go like this, that's fine. So that's the bell-shaped condenser. You're wanting to condense. You're wanting to take that metal and localize and focus. This is extreme focus. that's quite interesting with our conversation today. By the way, all my conversations with you are off the cuff. There's no kind of real planning. I've got a kind of idea of what I want to talk about. And then we just get into the meat and potatoes of it and just see where it goes. Right, so then with this one, so if you're watching this and you're on YouTube, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Because this is where they go to. This is for you folks on the YouTube as well. Thank you for following me and all that good stuff. Okay, now with this one, this has a cauterizing piece of metal. So it's for scar tissue. And that's kind of one of the reasons I kind of got into this. I got some scar tissue going on there. Now, this is a point where you might want a little bit of arc. So this is the arc. So I got some scar tissue. So that's where you kind of go a little bit more external. But then if you're kind of like a woman and you're kind of like, you've been reading this literature and it's saying to you, oh, I read somewhere that the neck is the thyroid, and I heard somewhere that that's the seat of the women's immune system. So again, contact, always like this, contact. And you could rub some rosemary oil in there with a little bit of black seed oil or a little bit of eucalyptus or a bit of helichrysum, and you put it on there and you're like, well, okay, let's just do that anyway for all intents and purposes. Let's go. What oil? Okay, we're going to use some of Daddy Zish's Beekeeper Blend. So we're going to go like this. Bit of Beekeeper Blend. Here we go. Beekeeper Blend, maybe with a little bit of pine oil in there as well, and then we're gonna go like this, and we're gonna put it on the neck. Put it on the neck. I'm gonna breathe a bit in. I'm gonna put my machine on my neck like that. Because I'm just doing what I would do. And then there we go. So that's the neck one. So, but then say you had something going on with your arm and you're like, oh, I've been getting some kind of like dodgy, repetitive strain. I don't know if I've been at the computer too much. What is it? There's something going on in there. What is that, Zish? What's going on? And so you could actually use that neck one in there like that. So, oh, what is that, Zish? What's going on in that arm? There's something going on in there. Oh. Oh, that's better actually. Ah, there we go. So I covered a little bit of the electrodes as well. I have got something going on in this arm, but I'm learning about, like, this is quite important. So tell me what's happening inside the body. I feel it's recalibrating the natural flow. What I'm saying is we are perfect, pretending we are not. Dumbed down. I scream, we scream, yes, Jim Jarmusch. I scream, we all scream. That's Jim Jarmusch. It's one of my favourite films. So tell me what's happening inside the body. What's happening inside the body, I just see it as we're having a recharge, or you're kind of like, you know, sometimes you just need a little bit of extra voltage. Sometimes, like, they are geoengineering us, so that has actually helped. So sometimes you just need a little bit of help from your friends, and I kind of say, you don't have to go and see anybody because you've got the tools in the palm of your hands, so it actually does save you money in the long term. I've invested so much money in years past from, well, just natural health alone costs you a lot of money. But then if you need to go and see a chiropractor, or, you know, you want to go and learn some extra things and, you know, do that work on yourself because you want to peel back those layers to help humanity. I genuinely think when you do self-healing, some people might see it as selfish, but I see it as like you're wanting just to become better and do like better in this world. But from my understanding, it's just oxygenate, it's adding ozone, it's adding plasma, it's adding ether, and it's working the lymphatic system. And you got the option then of the spark, or which is like external, or go internal. So it's like an internal, external, something is given, something's removed, working on the metabolism, strength, health, and beauty. What that is, I don't know. It's like somebody out there that has that measure of science can start to measure those things and see, like, what is it about this that has actually helped. I'm like, wow, that actually so thank you for getting me to do that, because there's been something going on with my arm. What's been going on with my arm? I don't know what it is. I have an idea what it is. I have an idea what it is. It's the thing I'm talking into. It's that thing I'm talking into. I think it's that. Okay, so this was Zish chiming in. Let's have a look. So tell me what's happening inside the body. I feel it is recalibrating the natural flow. Yeah, that's a good word actually. I feel like it is doing some sort of calibration. And actually the technology itself, if those companies were still around today, they'd be inviting you to send the machine back to get it recalibrated. So it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, I think calibration is the right word, Catherine.